Hi love. There seems to be this running joke that I see every time on the internet.
Mbappe needs to create the space for the ball to move.
Dad, can I talk to you, please?
I'm watching the football now. What is
And
it?
the press is important.
Unpress yourself and use the toilet then. What is going on?
Emotionally, I think the pressure of this new term
Hey!
to me.
Back in my day, the pressure. I used to swim from class with 87 books in my bag and 6 logs on my head. Just for the fire. 6 days a week. But you want to cry about pressure, Pressure of too much food in the fridge? Pressure of a comfortable bed to sleep on, But you want to cry about the pressure. If I don't slap you back to the Stone Age, it's crying about. Rebuke that spirit. Rebuke.
Your what? Depression. Allah, depression. You know, back home, I work 5 jobs. I work 24/8. We don't have 24/7 back home. Extra day just for work. But you want to be depression. Wow. Why depression? Why you depression? You have everything you need. Food, water, love. I see on the WhatsApp, if you are depression, take a green tea with little bit ginger and lemon. The depression, bye-bye.
Crazy about that too. Do you not think that affects someone mentally? As much as we put in
That POV when you tell your immigrant parents that you're depressed and they simply cannot understand that because you have a roof over your head and you eat every single day. Like, what could you be depressed about? What is depression? Overall, there seems to be just a huge disconnect between millennials, Gen Z, and their parents. And I'm more specifically talking about immigrant parents or any ethnic household. So I've talked about African millennials cutting off their parents. I've talked about the firstborn daughter and her trauma. And I've also reacted to one video where African parents were talking about respect and just being all crazy. And I felt like on those videos, I was definitely leaning more towards my generation, my people, and not really towards the parents. And I feel like I might have done some injustice there. A little bit biased when it comes to those videos, especially against the parents. But today I wanted to dive deep. It just seems to be such a disconnect between the two generations. They don't get you, they don't understand your mental health. This constant fight, someone's cutting off somebody, someone's mother hasn't spoken to the son for 20 years, they don't understand why. I just want to dive deep into their generation and their mentality. Like, why does mental health mean squat to them? Why did they never say the words I love you? Why is acts of service the only way that they can show that they love us? Why can't the words I'm sorry come out of their mouths? Why doesn't respect go both ways when it comes to them? Are we as immigrants or family or people from ethnic household taking too much of Western ideas, trying to impose them on our parents and making them seem like the villain, whereas they just really living their culture? But like, because of Western media, we've seen that and we have villainized it because of the TVs that we watch, the TV shows, all that kind of stuff. Ugh, there's so much to get into. But if you are new, welcome back to my channel. This is Talks with Tanya. I've not been here for a while. Apologies, please. It's been quite hectic, okay? But anyway, let's just get right into this. Has anyone else noticed that the way that we learn our history or the way we talk about history, we always make it seem like it happened so long ago, but it's really not that long ago. I mean, just now some countries have gotten their independence in Africa. I mean, in Namibia, they got their independence, I think, in 1990, South Africa in 1994. Many of the generations before have known nothing but because of colonialism. Why am I saying this? I want to point out that sometimes we underestimate the impact of colonialism and the intergenerational trauma along with it, and how that doesn't just manifest in our incapability to have financial freedom or generational wealth as people of color, but our family dynamics. Some of the things that we wholeheartedly believe is our culture has come from trauma where it wasn't originally ours, but because of the colonial powers. I'm just gonna summarize this article. So basically, colonialism has lasting effects that are still felt today, particularly in regions like Latin America and sub-Saharan Africa, where high rates of depression, suicide, substance abuse, and domestic violence persist. Advances in epigenetics reveal that environmental influences can affect our genes and can be passed down through generation, meaning the trauma and changes inflicted by colonialism continue to shape our identities, behaviors, and beliefs. Just as social media trends can quickly influence culture, the deep impact of colonialism on native people's lives and custom continue to resonate through generations. Having said that, I feel like sometimes we understand generational trauma, but it only is relevant when it comes to our issues, when it comes to things that we go through, which is, you know, the hair conversation, you know, featureism, all that kind of stuff. When it comes to other things that has traumatized our parents, we don't have as much empathy or want to understand it as that it is a generation that they also went through that there were also kids that they were also growing up during, you know, the segregation times, all that kind of stuff. So really, my message truly is that we need to understand that we're not the only generation that went through trauma or that are going through the generational trauma. Bringing it closer to home, I'm guessing our parents are in peut-être me speaking French, 60s, 50s, 70s, I'm guessing, and their way of living, how they grew up is completely different. The environment, and again, I'm talking about brown, you know, people of color. Let's just call it people of color, right? Where there was segregation, there were many laws that prevented them from succeeding in life. There was just so many things, especially for immigrant parents who had to move to another country, having faced war and, you know, the G words, you know, all that kind of stuff. That all boils down, and if we just summarize all that, what they went through, surely they cannot understand what you mean by you are depressed when you're literally living in a safe country and you have food and you have electricity. It doesn't make sense to them. But why is that? Which is why I wanted to talk about the Maslow hierarchy of needs. I thought this might be an interesting view on it, even though I heard something about how Maslow stole this sort of idea from a person of color or people of color. I'm not sure. We'll look into that later on. But for the moment, I wanted to talk about this pyramid right here. But basically, the pyramid is based on the idea that certain basic needs must be met before individuals can progress up to the hierarchy to more complex needs. The hierarchy places psychological needs at the bottom, followed by safety, then belongingness and love, onto esteem, and lastly self-actualization, of which I feel like we have been privileged to reach self-actualization. But let's start at the bottom. Let's start from, I feel like a lot of our parents were not able, actually, before I even continue this video was definitely influenced heavily by this creator right here. Go watch her video, link is in the description below. Anyway, a lot of our parents were not able to go past the psychological needs, which includes, you know, breathing, water, food, and clothing and sleep. Basically, I remember like when I was in Zimbabwe, like we're sitting around the fire, and like one of the like uncles were like, yeah, back in the day there were soldiers, if you know about the Ndebele G. I don't know if I shouldn't say too much words on here because they'll be really blocking my content. But anyway, when that was happening and he's Ndebele, they were like, the soldiers, you know, would come and would always have to eat like on our, oh, I don't know what it's called. But like when you know, like a ducking something, like you're not fully settled, like you had to eat like that and in like one plate because the soldiers could come anytime and you had to run, you know, so you couldn't, you know, like really eat properly, you know, and they had to like share one plate because of that. So you can imagine someone growing up like that and how they view like what a good life is being able to sit comfortably in a house, eating, relaxing. Like that for them is luxury, top tier luxury, you know, it's a privilege. So I know that's like an extreme case, but like for some people, parents had to go through some really difficult times just to get the basic psychological needs. I mean, most of our parents were surviving, not really living as we do, you know? No, they were surviving. It also reminds me every time of that meme where it's like my parents at 22 working and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and me at 22, I'm like on Snapchat, you know? Like that in itself is a privilege, just having not to have the pressure to get married at a young age, because some of our parents had to, you know. There weren't that many privileges for women, there weren't that many privileges for men, even men of color. So the only way to really succeed or to, you know, get that basic need was to get married. And some of our parents got that safety and security once they moved to another country and got to have the health, employment, property, family, and social ability. And I think that's the second level that majority of them got to be at, and that is why your mom probably doesn't apologize to you by saying I'm sorry, but probably cooks you like your favorite meal or ask you what was that video game that you were talking about that you wanted, yeah, I'm gonna get that for you. Or they won't even say they're gonna get that for you, they're just gonna ask you like, what was it again? The iPhone 15, is that what you wanted? Okay. Then just one day they just bring it. They don't even give it to you straight. They will just like put it by your bed. You know, that's their version of apology.
Want some of these?
No, I'm good. I'm straight.
You don't?
No, I'm good. I don't want to.
I thought these was your favorite.
I mean, they cool. I'm straight. I'm good.
Okay. Just wondering. Also, I got the game on in here. We got some pizza coming if you hungry or anything like that.
Okay, that's cool.
What you got planned for tomorrow? You got anything planned for the weekend coming up?
I ain't got nothing planned. I ain't got nothing. No.
Okay. All right. Making sure you're all right, man. You ain't still upset, are you? You still mad? You still upset about what happened?
Nah, I'm good. I'm straight. No, I ain't mad.
No, Daddy just making sure you on the straight and narrow, you know? There's plenty of times your grandmother had to get me. And good.
I know.
So you can shake that off. All right. I'll leave these here if you want them. I'll leave them right there because I ain't gonna eat no more of them.
Anyway, so because our parents struggled to get to that safety and security, and worked hard to get that and stay there, whereas from our point of view, we were born into that, to that safety and security. It was never something that we had to earn. It was just right there as we were born. Our parents see us being born into that as the greatest gift they can give us, you know, because they are bringing us into something more than they had. So that's why they're really always talking about that. You live under my roof, you know, all that kind of, because they never had that. To them, that is like the greatest privilege. That is like the greatest gift. At least that's how I think they see it, you know. So we automatically got the psychological needs, breathing, food and water, all that kind of stuff. We got the safety and security. That's what we're born in, and we get to automatically be able to get friendship, family, intimacy, and sense of connection that comes easier to us because we don't have to worry about those other things. We have the privilege to be able to form meaningful friendship, to be able to learn from other people's cultures. You know, you always wonder like why I always see those jokes of like your immigrant parents being like so racist or being so like saying the most vile things. You know, they never got to socialize with other groups. You see that your immigrant parents have been there for 20 years. They don't really have friends outside of their culture. They're still sticking with their own little group, right? You see that quite a lot of times. Obviously I'm generalizing, like please don't be that person. Obviously there's exceptions to everything, okay? The problem comes when we demonize them for not having the emotional intelligence that they did not have the privilege to have. Again, we were not the only generation that was traumatized. Individualism and Western powers. So majority of like the first and second generation immigrants, I hope I'm saying that correctly, it always like such a tongue twister, have stayed in the country that their parents moved to. For example, your parents, I'm just going to use my country, your parents are from Zimbabwe and then they moved to the United States, and then maybe I was already born, right? That's the first generation, and most of the people like that have stayed in that country. They've not gone back to the original country, right? So that's where, you know, the little conflict, the little weird identity crisis comes in, where you can't speak your mother tongue, you know, because your parents didn't teach you, right? Because they wanted to assimilate, you know, they didn't teach you your home language. I used to be one of those people like, why don't you know your language? I actually like judge people who don't know their home language, but like now I've really understood, like some parents genuinely did not teach their children their home language because they really wanted their children to assimilate with the culture, to blend in, to sort of like protect them from being discriminated, so that like their children like speak English or whatever language that is, so that they don't feel like othered. You know what I'm saying? So it goes both ways. Like some parents, yeah, obviously that's again internalized, you know, generational, you know, it all goes together. It all goes together. Where you can't just like be like, oh, the parent is bad for not teaching the child you know, their native language, you know, like it's the parent's fault. Yes, it is, but also at the same time, why did that parent not teach them? Because they had to assimilate, they had to blend in, they had to make sure that their kids didn't get made fun of as they did when they first came to the country and couldn't speak the language, right? Kind of like how, you know, I think I think I'm getting my vibe. Yeah, I think I really am. Yeah. So anyway, individualism, right? So most of the POC, like people of color, our countries, they're very what's the word, the opposite of individualism, what is it, collectivism. We are coming from a more collective society, definitely not individualistic. Then you get as well like the first generation, second generation immigrants who are growing up in a Western society, those that moved abroad, you know, I mean France, you know, wherever you are, UK, whatever, where in those countries it's more individualistic, and that's what we learn. And there obviously becomes a conflict between us and the parents, because we are just two different people, right? And you're trying to, and you as the child, you in between, right? Outside you have to be this, inside it's there's a bit of conflict right there, right? That was so weird. I don't know why I did that. So just to give the definition, collectivism advocates for collectivism, prioritizes group harmony, collaboration, and shared values. They argue the importance of community cooperation and collective well-being, while individualism advocates for individualism, prioritize individual autonomy, rights, and freedom. They argue for the importance of self-initiative and self-reliance. Those are completely different ideologies, and I'm not here to talk about which one is right or more wrong or anything like that, but like just how it affects the relationships that we have with our parents and the relationship with us as well. I mean, the best example that I can think of right now is when it comes to career choices and education. This is the same old story that we see children of immigrants always talking about, people of color, what they have, like one of the most common problems is when it comes to career choices, what they want for you and what you want for yourself. Decisions regarding education and career can become a battleground for conflict values. The family might prefer stable, prestigious careers that reflect well on the family as a whole, while the child might want to be more inclined to pursue personal passions, even if they are less traditional or financially secure. I saw this firsthand. I remember so as you know, I lived in South Africa, so I did my schooling, like most of my schooling in South Africa, and I think in grade 11 or grade 10, grade 10, you choose your subjects that you want, so that when you finish high school you can be able to apply for university with those subjects and get into the career that you want. So that is the time where you see, wow, okay, yeah, the parents really, like all like my black friends, if I should say, like their parents forced them to do subjects like science and all those things that they didn't want to do, and some of them failed because of that, because they were being told what to do. They didn't have like the right to choose what they wanted to do. Whereas, I was lucky. My parents were like, you do whatever you want. So I did dance, as a subject, all that kind of stuff. So that's where the two sides sort of, clash together, because your parents are seeing it more from, they had to do something they didn't want, move away from the family for the sake of you, and for the sake of their family back home, and now they want you to do the same, to sort of keep up with the culture, sort of keep up with you, to sort of not lose you, to sort of, I don't know, there's so many reasons why, but it's not just from a place of selfishness for them to choose what they want you to do. In fact, I saw this video of this guy saying that he's gonna force his daughter to go into finance because she's gonna hate her job anyway. At least she must hate a job that is actually paying well. And I was like, I wish someone told me that before. Like, girl, like, what was I doing with dance? Like, for real. Like, I wish someone, like, literally told that, like, you don't have to, like, do what you like. But also, when it comes to marriages as well, the parents tell you who to marry because they're really thinking about the unit. They're thinking about the collectivism. They're not thinking it's never just about you. And we can't actualize it because we've just grown up in this society where it's you, and what I'm gonna do and all that kind of stuff, and that is just pushing us further and further away. And obviously there are pros and cons to each side. This video is not about that. We will not end. I feel like this would be nice with like a panel of people. Like I was gonna say I should start a podcast. I already have a podcast. I just haven't posted anything yet. Like, I'm looking for people to like do these discussions with, because I feel like there's so many things that I could say, but like this is just gonna make the video too long. But like, yeah, our parents are always gonna see things or view things from a collectivism mindset. So half the things they're telling you, they're not just thinking about you. They don't want you to think just about you. You're thinking of everybody else and what benefits everyone else, and we just can't actualize it because we didn't grow up in that sort of system. And yeah, and it just makes things even more difficult. And also just like family dynamics in general. I wrote here that traditional family expectations might clash with the child's growing sense of individualism. For instance, while the family may expect the child to prioritize family needs and decisions, the child might feel pressured to pursue personal goals and ambitions, leading to misunderstandings and tension within the family. I mean, there has been a rise of like choosing me, cutting off everybody, and just all that kind of stuff. And while serves me right to say that it is absolutely valid when your family is toxic, they're toxic, but I'm also coming from the side of like, just listen to them, and having what I've said before like in mind. Maybe might see things a bit differently, where that's really just like them being who they are, and like as individualistic culture is ingrained within the Western culture, collectivism as well is very ingrained. Everyone here is telling you, be who you are, make yourself happy, cut off everybody, self-care, all that kind of stuff. And as it might sound great to you, the much opposite of that, creating a community, having a community around you, having good friends around you, you don't necessarily need a man, but if you have a community around you, friends and all that kind of stuff, you can still be happy. There's also that side of it, and that it's not as bad, but then there is work that needs to be done to have that. Your family doesn't just have a community by just whatever, but actual work had to be done to have that community, and it includes making tough decisions that don't only benefit you but benefit everyone else. Oh, there's like really like pros and cons to both sides. Hey, that's why you need balance. That's the thing. That's my thing. At the end of the day, you need a balance. Why did I say balance? Communication patterns, individualistics and collective cultures often have different communication styles. For example, direct communication is valued in individualistic culture. Direct communication, that is what we taught. Communication, just spit it out, of which for a lot of people is difficult, and we often want to just generalize and be like, oh, they're not a good person, why don't they just speak about it, all that kind of stuff. But like, in a lot of our cultures, it is ingrained in us, not to, you know, directly, you know, and even, and sometimes I have, you know, been aware of like family conflict, and I'm just like, why can't you just like tell them, you know, that I'm like that Gen Z be like, why don't you just tell them that they're wrong? And you know, my family's like, no, there has to be like a meeting, this person has to tell them, you can't go directly to tell them, like, you know, there's all these procedures that you have to go through, of which in a individual's culture, like the most correct thing is to just directly, you know, say it, which again ties in with what I was saying earlier about the apologizing thing, that it's not as simple as a parent coming to a child and being like, I'm sorry, or I apologize. Like, it's so difficult for them, as much as I think it's correct to do. Christian wise, yes, it's correct to just apologize, but in other cultures there is just ways to do certain things, and sometimes there might not even be a proper explanation of what those things are, but it's just a social construct where maybe sharing a gift or something like that shows more empathy and, you know, all that kind of stuff, to say I'm sorry. But, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? While indirect communication is more common in collectivism culture, the child may have to learn to navigate these differences actively. I think that's where we are, where we're stuck in the middle, where with our friends, we can be direct and be like, you did this to me, I didn't like it, let's talk it out. Where with your parents, it has to be a whole, we just have to navigate that and also understand it from their perspective, how they see things, you know. But like, yeah, it's not something that we can just be like, you guys are toxic, you don't know how to apologize. But they also have their own way of seeing things. That's not necessarily correct or necessarily incorrect, but because of, again, generational things. But yeah, but I just want us to recognize that there's a bit of a communication gap there between us. And this is why I'm becoming to not so like when there's like a TV show with like ethnic parents, you know, and then there's a child that's in university or whatever. That's always the plot. And, you know, he wants to do this and then they don't want this. And there's always that miscommunication where the parents, the immigrant parents, are always like painted as like the villain because of them upholding their culture, which I think is just so weird if we really think about how they demonize what our culture is. Also, not talking about like the culture, some of the things that are just toxic that are covered as culture when they're really just not. They're just people being narcissistic. We're just talking about basic things that we do, you know, that are just shed in a negative light, where it makes us even hate our parents more in the way they think. Yeah, just because of the standard. Lol, I wrote down there, what am I saying? I love it when I'm writing my little essays and then like I write it as like how I speak. So I literally wrote there like, so what am I saying? Balance. That is what I'm saying. There needs to be some sort of balance. There needs to be some sort of middle ground, because there's like two extremes of both sides. Sometimes there has to be a dialogue, a meeting point, and both parties have to agree. And I've talked about toxic parents before. I've talked about, you know, this generation, how they can be hard headed sometimes, you know, but hopefully you have parents that can be able to listen to you so that you can really understand their perspective and you can have a dialogue and try to navigate things. And things take time, you know, old habits take time, you know, to let go. But like, I just hope that we can be more understanding and empathetic and, you know, more long suffering, as the Bible says, to our parents and how they grew up and why they do the things that they do. And yeah, just be more empathetic. Yeah, because I was like, sometimes I look at my videos and I'm like, damn, I was really being mean. Like really, girl, you didn't have to say all that. Like, you know, sometimes, you know, they're just a girl. Sometimes I look at my mom, you know, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's just a girl. She just grew up and just like had kids, you know. She's doing this for the first time. She's being a parent for the first time. She's living on this earth for the first time. So just having more grace and yeah, I hope this video made some sort of difference in your life and, you know, got you thinking about some things. Do you guys like my new hair? yeah, decided to have like a sew-in because anyway, see you in my next video where I'll be talking about my hair journey. That's gonna be interesting. See you guys next time. Bye.